Good afternoon, guys. Discussion B is a speech also. The speech is titled The Art of Aging, a Story of Becoming. Okay, so sit back and enjoy, please. Good afternoon. I want to begin with a story. A few months ago, I sat with a woman in her late 80s. She had lived through wars, losses, births, reinterventions. She had buried a husband, raised 4 children, survived cancer twice, and still instead of instead on making her own tea every morning. When I asked her what aging felt like, she didn't hesitate. She said it feels like finally knowing what matters, not knowing everything, not knowing the answers, just knowing what matters. That is the art of aging, the art of attention. She told me that when she was young, her attention was everywhere, on ambition, on approval, on the next milestone. I was always looking ahead, she said. I didn't realize how much I was missing right in front of me. But with her age, her attention changed. It it sharpened, it clarified, it became intentional. She noticed the way morning light fell across her kitchen table. She noticed which conversations nourished her and which drained her. She noticed the difference between urgency and importance. This was this is the first art of aging, the art of attention. The shift from living broadly to living deeply. The body as achieved the body as chief and teacher. She laughed when she talked about her body. It's not what it used to be, she said, but it's honest. Her knees told her when the weather was changing. Her hands remembered every child they held. Her scars remembered every battle she had fought. Her body was not a record of decline, it was a record of adaptation. She said, my body isn't betraying me, it is teaching me. It teaches me. This is the second art of aging, learning to inhibit a changing body with respect rather than fear. the emotional deepening. Then she told me something that surprised me. I feel more now than I did at 40, she said, but I feel differently. Joy was quieter, but richer. Grief was less catastrophic and more compatible. Uh, com- companionable. Love was less performative and more elemental. She said, I don't get overwhelmed anymore. I get clear. This is the third art of aging, emotional depth, the ability to feel without being undone. The spiritual turn, the spiritual turn toward coherence. As we talked, she grew quiet. You know, she said, I used to think life was about answers. Now I think it's about coherence. She wasn't searching for certainty anymore. She was searching for alignment between the life she had lived and the life still hoped to shape. This is the fourth art of aging. The turn toward coherence, toward meaning, toward integration, the curation of relationships. She told me she no longer had patience for relationships that drained her. I don't have time for people who make me feel small, she said. She said, I only have time for people who make me feel real. Her friendships were intentional. Her family relationships were honest. Her community mattered more than ever. This is the fifth art of aging, curation. Choosing who gets your time, your energy, your tenderness. The shift from surviving to shaping. She told me she used to chase achievement. I thought life was about adding things, she said. Now I think it's about editing. She had begun to prune her commitments. She had begun to deepen her rituals. She had begun to choose her battles with care. This is the sixth art of aging, shaping the shift from surviving to refining. The mastery of enough. At, at the end of our conversation, she looked at me and said, "The best part of aging is knowing when enough is enough." Enough striving, enough proving, enough postponing joy. It is not resignation, it's liberation. It is the seventh art of aging, the mastery of enough. Conclusion. Aging aging as a public good. Her story is not unique. It is it is universal. It is the story of millions of older adults who are living not in decline but in depth. And if we understand aging as an art, as mastery, as refinement, as deepening, then our policies, our health systems, and our communities must reflect that truth. We must build structures that honor older adults, not as problems to manage, but as uh, reservoirs of wisdom, clarity, and community. We must design care that supports autonomy, dignity, and meaning. We must create communities where aging is not feared but valued. Because aging is not a crisis, aging is a triumph. Aging is the most human thing we do. And when we recognize that, we unlock not only the potential of older adults, but the future of all of us. Thank you. Okay, guys, here's the second part of my speech. And it is the Art of Aging Palliative Care essay. Okay, I'm going to explain that to you in a little essay I made. So let's dig into the second half of my show. Title is The Art of Aging, a Palliative Care essay. Aging is often framed as a slow diminishment, a gradual surrendering of strength, certainty, and the body's once reliable ease. But in the quiet rooms where palliative care unfolds, aging reveals itself as something far more intricate. It is not erosion. It is apprenticeships, a long patient training in how to live with with depth, honesty, and coherence. Aging is the art form most people practice without ever naming it. Palliative care is where it contours become visible. Where its contours become visible. The body as a truth teller. In youth, the body negotiates, it bargains, it compensates, it hides its limits behind ad ad re adrenaline and ambition. But aging and palliative care especially dissolves the illusion of endless capacity. The body begins telling the truth plainly. Fatigue, the fatigue arrives earlier in the day is not betrayal. It is information. The ache that lingers is not failure. It's a history. The breath that asks you to slow down. Is not weakness, it's wisdom. It is wisdom. Aging teaches what palliative care teaches. The body is not the enemy. It is the narrator. It carries the to achieve the archive of a life, the scars, the adaptations, and the ways a person raises from a chair or steadies themselves before speaking. It remembers what the mind forgets. It reveals what the mouth cannot say. To care for an aging body is to read a living document. To accompany an aging person, to honor the truth that document contains. The emotional deepening. There is a myth that aging dulls emotion, but in palliative care, I see the opposite. Older adults feel more, not less, but differently. Joy becomes quieter, more textured. It arrives in the warmth of sunlight on a kitchen table, in the sound of a familiar voice, in the presence of someone who knows your history. Grief becomes companionable, not a storm, but a tide that raises and falls, arises and falls. With memory, love becomes elemental, stripped of performance, distilled to presence. Fear becomes specific, not a shadow, but a question that can be answered. Aging refines the emotional palette until what remains is honest, manageable, and deeply human. It is not that emotions fade, it is that they mature. The turn toward meaning. Palliative care is not about dying, it is about meaning. And aging at its best is the long the long preparation for that turn. Late life begins a shift from answers to coherence. People begin asking, what story have I actually lived? What remains when ambition falls away? What does good? What does a good ending look like? What does a good mid middle look like? And now that I know I'm in it, these questions are not morbid. They are liberating. They mark the moment when aging becomes a spiritual practice, not transcends, tran, not transcendence, not transcendence, but alignment, not certainty, but integration. Meaning in late life is not found in grand gestures. It is found in the small, repeated rituals that anchor a person to themselves. Morning coffee, a familiar prayer, the way someone folds a blanket at the end of the day. Aging redraws the map of relationships in ways that mirror palliative care. Some relationships fall away, not out of conflict, but out of clarity. Some deepen, become the scaffolding of late life identity. Some return unexpectedly, like old songs you forgot you